Really glad to be here with you today. I'm Bárbara Holmes, and I'm your current Labor Commissioner. And so today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about myself, about what we're doing at the Georgia Department of Labor, and about what we need to be doing together. And so when the governor appointed me to this role in March, I was sworn in April, and so I've been in office a little bit less than a year, and we have been doing a lot of work. But you know, what I do really starts with who I am, and so I'm going to go all the way back and tell you about myself. I am a native of Puerto Rico, of course, an American territory, and came stateside when I was 7. So English isn't my first language. I'm a first-generation American. My family, though, my story really starts long, and I'll back up so that you can see. My story really starts long before that, back in 1961, when my grandparents fled Cuba. They were political exiles. Of course, Cuban Revolution, communism, everything is nationalized, and good, hardworking people have to seek refuge elsewhere. So they came stateside in 1961, ultimately settled in Puerto Rico, which is where many decades later I was born. And so I'm the daughter of freedom fighters. I believe in opportunity. I know what happens to families, to businesses, to countries when we don't have those freedoms. And so I fight every single day with those ideals. That one day I would be Georgia's first Latina constitutional officer is not something that I believe my grandparents had in mind, but they knew that America is where opportunity and freedom existed, where we could live out our purpose, have the freedom to live out our purpose, our faith, and our values. And so here I am today serving in this capacity, and really honored to be able to do that. Professionally, I've had a really interesting career and skills that I use every single day. I started as a reporter, so my background really starts with asking a lot of questions, listening intently, synthesizing information, and then putting that information to action. I was able to transfer that into a job in economic development, bringing jobs to rural Georgia, which is where I still live, down in Albany, Georgia, the southwest corner, about 3 hours south of here. Oh, thank you. Yes, South Georgia. There we go. And then I did that as an economic developer, and then I took over the Albany Area Chamber and ran that for a decade, building it into one of the largest and most dynamic chambers in the state, really working with our small business owners or entrepreneurs on job creation, but also in championing the policies that allow businesses to thrive and grow in our state. Along the way, Governor Nathan Deal asked me to serve on the Board of Regents, which governs Georgia's 26 public colleges and universities, and I did that until Governor Kemp asked me to take on this job. And so when I think about my skill set, I think about the things that I believe in, that I fight for. I was sharing earlier, I feel purposely positioned to do this job because it really combines things that I love, things that I've been doing for a long time, and things that our state needs. And so when the governor asked me to do this job, I knew that labor needed a lot of work, and it's really a labor of love at this point. But I promised him and I promised the people of Georgia when I was sworn in that I would take this work and do it in 3 phases. I would first do what's necessary. I would then do what's possible, and before long we would be doing what people think is impossible. And so that's the work that we're taking. And through that, when I was sworn in, I didn't sit in the boardroom, I didn't sit at the Capitol, I got in the car. And I went community by community on a statewide tour, meeting with our communities, meeting with our elected officials, our businesses, our workers, to understand what's happening in those individuals' communities, zip code by zip code. The worst thing you can do is go to Atlanta and think you know everything and develop policy there and think that it's the right thing for every Georgian. So it's really important, as you know, to be out in the field speaking with those that matter most, and those are our citizens. It also reminds us who we're serving, right? And we're serving everyday, hardworking Georgians. So we took all of the information and I rolled that into our agency's first comprehensive strategic plan, which I rolled out a few months back. And so that strategic plan is guiding everything that we do. So for the first time in our agency's history, we have about 800 employees across the state who now know where we're going, how we get there, and what winning looks like for Georgians every single day. That is informing the largest modernization effort in state history for Georgia's unemployment insurance platform. That's a $46 million technology overhaul that allows us to process unemployment insurance claims faster. It allows us to better detect fraud before it happens, and it means that employers can hire at a greater clip. And so all of those pieces are just one component of a much broader modernization effort to bring the Georgia Department of Labor from 1986, which is when our uninsurance platform was created and put into play, into this century, and really this millennia as we really look at it. We also focus at the Department of Labor not just on unemployment insurance, which is a critical component for Georgia. It's one of the things that allows us to stabilize the economy when we see fluctuations. Unemployment insurance isn't a lifestyle. It's not a job. It is breathing room, temporary breathing room, so that we can help Georgians who are ready and willing to work get back into the workforce. And so we take that role very seriously. And so we do that work, but we also don't just stop at unemployment insurance. We take the next step by helping connect Georgians who are looking for work with opportunities in our state. And so we have a large portfolio of re-entry programs that allow us to take citizens who have skills and want to work and help them do that. What I've also noticed as I go across the state and talk to folks is that we have about 5 million Georgians active in the workforce, and that's pretty substantial. But we have people that are on the periphery of when I think of the labor force as a circle, think about the periphery. And this is where we have our veterans and military spouses, our people with disabilities, our second chance hires, our youth, our returning retirees. And so some of the work that we're also doing is evaluating what I call opportunity populations. What are the barriers to enter the workforce, and how do we as an agency partner with other state agencies and the private sector to remove those barriers so that we can expand the workforce, get more people working every single day. And so those are some of the pieces that we're working on at the Georgia Department of Labor. It really is. It's the pieces that I mentioned, certainly unemployment insurance, which is absolutely critical to stabilize Georgia's economy. Of course, it runs on consumer spending, and so when we have these fluctuations, it can be challenging, and making sure that we're connecting hardworking Georgians to mortgage-paying jobs. I'm honored to sit on the governor's talent strategy team, which is really forging the path forward for Georgia, not just as a top state for talent, or top state for business, which we have been for 12 years, but also a top state for talent. With my background in economic development and chamber, I know that the #1 site qualifier for a business is labor. You could have the best site plans, you could have the best idea, you could have the best building and the best technology. If you don't have people, then you don't have anything. And so making sure that we are training a workforce, whether it's our youth or those that are adults, in areas that match what our economy needs, is a key priority of our work with the talent strategy team and the top state for talent. The governor's high demand career pathways really inform that, and so we spend a lot of time looking at where's Georgia, where's the economy going, and then what skill sets, what occupations do we really need to be targeting to make sure that Georgians can step out from training into these jobs. But what I love is that we took this a step further and created the regional high demand career list, because what works in Albany's manufacturing and healthcare sector does not necessarily work in Savannah's logistics sector or Macon's aerospace or all of the other metro areas in the state. And so what we are working with educators at every level, K through 12, technical college, the university system of Georgia, is helping our regional economies and our regional communities align training to the job growth in those areas. So you can see we're doing a lot of work at the Georgia Department of Labor, and it really is something that sets us up for success, working with other partners across the state, stabilizing the economy through the use of unemployment benefits, and then working to ensure we're aligning the education to the economy. I've never chased titles, and somebody asked me recently, well, why do you want to be a politician? I was like, the truth is that I don't. But this work matters, and the governor asked me to do this job, and I committed that I would do this job, I would do it well, I would deliver for Georgians, and I would seek the full 4-year term in 2026. It is a constitutional office, one of the few in the state, statewide office, and so I'm on the November 2026 ballot. But I believe in work that matters, and this work matters. It just so happens to come with a political seat and with all of the things that go into that. But it also allows me to be a voice when we're making decisions at the Capitol, and not just a voice for our communities in Metro Atlanta, but a voice for all Georgians throughout the state. And so when we make policies, we need to take all of that into account. So I'm honored to do it. I'm glad to be here with you today. And through the work that you're doing, you're on the ground, you're hearing from people every single day, and you're getting out there asking good questions and helping deliver a really strong message. And that's to keep Georgia free. It's to keep Georgia's faith also free, and to allow us to work as a state and move forward. I'm again, daughter of freedom fighters. It's in my blood to fight for the right things and fight for ideals, and I bring that same passion and urgency to the work that I'm doing. But I'm grateful to you and what you do every single day. And so I'm happy to be with you and happy to answer any questions that you might have. And if you have none, I'm happy to. Okay, right here.
What is your passion? What's your passion for your job? What is the one big passion that you have?
I'll be honest, I'm motivated by a very simple concept, and that's to make things better.
Pointedly, with your passion, specifically.
My passion is to make things better. And so what that means for my role at the Georgia Department of Labor is that we create the systems, we improve the systems that give people access to jobs, we improve the systems that let people live out their purpose, and we do that in all 159 counties, regardless of geography.
And so how do illegals fit into that?
Well, illegals aren't supposed to be here. And it's pretty that simple. What we do at the Georgia Department of Labor is focus on hardworking Georgians, right? State hardworking Georgians, and getting them connected to the jobs that are in our state and moving our state forward. And so there's a lot of Georgians that need work, and we focus on helping them. There's also 65,000 unfilled jobs in Georgia. And so we're working to match people in Georgia who are here legally that want to work with the businesses that want to hire.
Is unemployment down right now? It seems like I have my daughter-in-law, just been a year, she got laid off.
Yeah, that's a great question. Unemployment in Georgia is stable. So we were at 3.5% a little bit ago. We've had a slight uptick to 3.6%. And most of that is seasonal hiring, which you see. So it's really something that happens every year about this time. You see that slight uptick for the December numbers. And of course, data lags. But what's interesting is that despite that, we have job growth in all of Georgia's regional commissions, which means that businesses are still creating jobs. There's a lag just due to timing and making sure that we're translating Georgians that are out of work into these positions. So the economy is good, and it's still nearly 1 percentage point below the national unemployment rate. So we've had smart policies here for numerous years. Of course, Governor Kemp has been a phenomenal governor. I was proud to serve with Governor Deal, and Sonny Perdue is a mentor of mine. Of course, he preceded Governor Deal, as you all know. And so we've had here in Georgia almost 30 years, I guess it's 20-something years, of phenomenal conservative leadership, which allows us to have one of the strongest economies in the country, allows us to be nearly a full percentage point below the national average in unemployment. And few states can say that we're adding jobs in every region of the state. And so we're doing that here. Yes, sir.
Commissioner, I do a lot of economic development work. And of course, we're seeing, California, Illinois, New York, these blue states with their, economic policies are driving lots of businesses out of their state, and a lot of those are coming to Texas and Florida and Georgia, Tennessee. So maybe you could comment on what we're seeing with emerging technologies. We're the #1 data center growth state right now. What do you see in terms of these kind of things and what they mean for our state going into the future?
Sure. So you're seeing just that. You're seeing sort of this migration from states that just have policies that don't work for business. And it's really important to remember that the #1 business of government is business. It is businesses that creates jobs, right? We have government jobs, obviously, but they're really just meant to allow things to run. We have to make sure that the private sector is really what leads on job creation. And so we're seeing what happens when that isn't the case in some of our other states. And so here in Georgia, we're open for business, right? We're open for business with the #1 state for business, and we are able to capitalize on that. Georgia has also been well positioned thanks to Governor Kemp's leadership in being proactive, in seeing the technologies that are emerging and putting plans in place to capture those. We've seen that with the EV technologies. We've seen that in creating Georgia as the tech hub of the Southeast, and we're seeing it now also through AI. And what's interesting about AI is we're in a place where this, which I just have to say, I want her hair. Thank you, because I'm going to take this picture to my hairdresser and say, make this happen. I mean, it's my hair, but so much better. Who knew? Thank you. But yes, and so, what we're seeing is Georgia, again, because of our strong relationships with businesses, because we talk to citizens also, we understand where things are going with respect to emerging technologies. And so we're a little bit further ahead. Those high demand career pathways are really suited to where things are going. And so what we're looking at with respect to at least AI specifically is better understanding it, continuing to talk to employers. How are you using it? How is it impacting your workforce? What decisions will you make based on this technology? And what I'm hearing back is we need every person we can get. We're going to be using some of this technology in this human-robot combination, right? So that we can get people doing what people do best. And we're looking at technology throughout our agency, but what we want to make sure is we're using automation in ways that speed up processes and work that is not ergonomic and ultimately be challenging for humans, but let people do what they do best, right? And so for the Georgia Department of Labor, that means being there one-on-one in person with people every single day. And so I see continued great opportunity, back to your question, in terms of how we can capitalize on what we're calling emergent, even though some of these are already here. It's making sure that we're talking to businesses very regularly, understanding the types of skills that they need, aligning our training programs at K through 12, technical and higher ed to those, and then helping all of those that are wrapped in the workforce transition into these jobs. Yes, ma'am.
I own my own business, so this is not something that affects me, but I see it with other people I know of a certain age, and it's called age discrimination or ageism. And I know people who have had careers with certain corporations and they were successful, and they get to a point and all of a sudden they're told they're not needed, or their job is no longer exists. Any excuse you can think of. Do you address that in any way? I mean, it's a widespread occurrence.
Well, one of the things I talked about early on is what our returning retirees, or people that have been in the workforce a long time. There's incredible wealth and knowledge in some of our more seasoned professionals. And I can tell you at our department, we have many on staff that have retired from state government or from our department, and we've brought back because their skill sets are so valuable to what we do. And so again, when I think about the workforce, it's not about excluding people from the workforce. It's about creating a space where we can really break down those barriers and bring others in so that we can have more opportunities.
But what can you do to enlighten people? I mean, you've got somebody at the top of a big corporation, I don't know, making these decisions, but to enlighten people, but what about the wisdom and sacrifice?
Sure. And some of that goes back to education. Obviously, there's no room for discrimination. There are strict laws against those things, but I do recognize that, of course, it happens every single day. The role that we take, we are not a law enforcement agency. We are not the EEOO. We work with employers to help them understand the value of our workforce, the value of our older or retirees, the value of youth in the workforce, of our military spouses and our active duty who want to transition into the civilian workforce, of our people with disabilities, and help them understand how to leverage this incredible talent for their organizations, for productivity, for enhanced gains. And so that's the role where we play, is making sure that we're an advocate for our opportunity populations and also helping our employers learn how to translate that into the workforce. And it's a special, if you've never hired a certain type of employee, let's just say military spouses, for example, who often transition every 2 or 3 years, you may not be willing to take this risk on someone who will only be with you for a little bit, but there's so much value. And so it's working with employers to help them understand how to leverage that type of talent. Any other questions?
I would wondered about the film industry. Is that still growing? and a big part of
The film industry is still a big part of Georgia's economy. That's right. Yep.
I just wondered, I haven't heard anything about it lately.
Yep, it's doing well, and it's still a big part of Georgia's economy. And few states can say that their film industry is as big as ours. And so Georgia's put a lot to become a center, a destination for film, and not just for the production, but also for post-production, for creatives on the front end as well. So really the full circle of film and other creative industries. Well, ladies, I've enjoyed. I'm due back to the Capitol. I've got to present to another labor committee. And so if Karen knows how to get a hold of me, I would love to visit with you again. Thank you for what you do every single day. I would be honored to have your support as we continue this work and as you pull your ballot November 2026.
Thank you.
Thank you.